Hello everyone, welcome to another video. It's Francesco here. In today's video, we've got a very, very special guest, someone that you guys follow quite a lot. We've got David Allen here, who is the creator of GTD. For those who don't know, I want David to introduce himself to start with. So pass over to David to give a short introduction to himself.
Yeah, thanks, Francesco. I'm delighted to be here with you and your folks. I spent 35 years trying to uncover techniques to get clarity, stay clear when your world got confusing and strange and overwhelming, and you had a lot more to do than you had time to do. And how do you surf on top of that instead of feel buried by it? Because I'm a lover of peace, freedom, clarity. No distraction, being able to be present with whatever you're doing, whether that's cooking spaghetti or painting a painting or writing a business plan or cleaning up your email. So I'm a love of clarity. I'm a love of space. And I just discovered techniques, that over the time that actually you didn't have to change yourself. You didn't have to transform yourself. You just needed to engage in certain kinds of behaviors that everybody actually does to some degree. Very few people do them consistently or completely, which makes a big difference. But I uncovered essentially the algorithm or the formula about how do you get stuff off your mind without having to finish it. Sure. And it's not free. It is something you have to train yourself to do. You're not born doing it. And I just discovered what is that methodology and how do you train yourself and start to build the habits of those practices that allow you to just have a lot more room to focus on the more meaningful stuff and be present with whatever you're doing.
Brilliant. And a lot of people have been following your work for many years. So it's been great. I was just telling David before the call that I read his book when I was like 15 or 16. So quite a few years ago. And I was able to apply it. It's the good thing about GTD is you can apply it to like 99% of situations, right?
Yeah.
Probably 100%, right?
Well, so it's the zeros and ones. I mean, the ultimate reduction is just outcome and action. That's the essence of productivity. What are you trying to accomplish? Either some result or some experience, and what action do you need to take to be able to start to appropriately engage toward that outcome? And so there's no mystery about GTD. That's just good business. That's just good life practice. That's just good. Hey, how do you cook spaghetti? How do you get out the door? How do you talk? It's all about imagining some outcome and then organizing your resources and your attention in that regard to make it happen. So I just figured that out and figured out how you could apply that in a world that is very easy to disturb that practice simply by all the distractions and all the overwhelm and all the number of things that people then avoid making the appropriate decisions about. And that was kind of the essence of it. Interesting, you should mention, Francesco, that you ran across this at age 15 or 16. The next book that's coming out about GTD, I'm co-authoring with two co-authors, and it's designed for teenagers. And the working title is, Are You Ready? In other words, are you ready to leave mom as your trusted system?
I like that. That sounds good. Right. So that's really for the people that are sort of leaving home towards like that sort of busy period of their life, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you have, oftentimes school and your parents are a trusted system. You can trust them to let you know what you need to wear, where you need to be when, what homework do you need to do, and so forth. Once you leave those two sources of structure,
sure,
you're on your own.
Yeah. And
you got to work it out. And if you haven't learned how to manage yourself, then it's very easy for you to get thrown into the tornado and blown apart.
Definitely. That's going to be a really good read, actually. I'm looking forward to that one. The first sort of question I had for you was, so for those who sort of know about GTD, but want to sort of understand what the end goal of GTD is, what are the benefits that you can reap after using the process and being fully comfortable with it, maybe from your sort of experiences?
Clear space.
Sure.
What would you do if you had nothing pulling mind? No distractions. We're totally free in your head. Where would you point it? The fascinating thing is that could be as different as there are people listening to this or watching this right now. I've got people who use that clear space to just think more strategically on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis about their business. I've got people who use it they use that space to get more creative ideas about music they want to write or paintings they want to paint. And I have people that are using that simply to have the space to watch their kids play football or soccer and not be on their iPhone.
Sure.
So how valuable are those? Well, it depends. GTD doesn't tell you which ones of those you should be doing. What it does is give you the space to be doing what you consider most meaningful and interesting or fun to you.
Sure. Yeah,
that's the end game.
That is the end game. Yeah, it definitely is. And so moving on to the next question, when you yourself used the GTD system, because this productivity channel covers more the apps and things and the resources that you can use, what are sort of the most used productivity tools that you use inside your daily routine?
Me personally?
Yeah, you personally.
Well, I still use IBM Notes, the old Lotus Notes.
Oh, yeah.
We still use that in our small company. And, a friend of mine who was my CTO for several years actually built an overlay into Lotus Notes that maps to the GTD process. So unless you're using Lotus or IBM Notes, you wouldn't have access to it. But it's very cool. It's just a list manager with some pretty cool bells and whistles. And there are lots of list managers out there. You can configure Outlook. You can configure all kinds of things. Last count, I think there were over 300 apps that have been built around the GTD process. And they're all just list managers, basically, just with just different complexities to them and different capabilities to them. But that's really all they are. So I have no specific recommendation to people other than what kind of tool do you like to use? If you're a low tech person, hey, file folders and pieces of paper works. If you're a mid tech person, you like paper and the touch and feel of paper notebooks and paper planners. I used one for 20 years. I could go back to one easily. They're great. I know a lot of high-tech people that are going back to paper now simply because it actually maps to your brain as a better way to see an overview, and there are fewer clicks needed to get to what you want to see and what you want to input. And then there's the high-tech, things you call all those apps out there that are, depending on which operating system you're using, and you got all kinds of options, and they're showing up weekly. Trust me, I get pinged, regularly. David, hey, I got the great new GTD app. Would you come take a look? It's like I gave up a while ago, just simply because there's so many.
Yeah, definitely.
There's not really any game changer out there. GTD itself as a methodology was game changing.
Yeah,
but the tools, the technology is not really there yet. I've got a vision of what could happen, in terms of context building and decision support tools.
Yeah.
That you can program in and then whatever, but it would have to knit together all those different aspects of what you guys are using on your computers. Nobody's going to give up Evernote or Dropbox or WeTransfer or any of that stuff. So you've got to have some way to either put all that together. And right now that's pretty labor intensive. You still have to figure out what goes where.
And when do you think that's going to be ready, or something like that, like an all-in-one system?
Have no idea. I spent 3 years with Charles Simonier's team, in Bellevue.
Yeah.
Charles built Word and Excel, and he's a pretty meta guy, right? And they thought that they had a technology that might be able to, to serve the GTD purpose. And we looked at it hard and fast with some of the brightest people on the planet, and the technology is not there yet, nor the market for it, because you'd have to have something that would integrate bi-directionally with all those things you're not going to give up. And
that's it.
Build a dashboard that will accumulate and gather and curate your own material based upon your own formulas for how you want to curate it.
Sure.
In other words, hey, I'm going to spend the weekend with my family. What should I see? That should already be programmed in there for you.
Yeah.
That technology, the technology exists right now, but the time it's going to take to actually build that to make it work is not worth the market potential. Nobody thinks they need it. God, people, even most people listening to this, still keeping a bunch of shit in their head. So, come on, the world's got a long way to go before it really catches the vision of a clear head.
Yeah, definitely.
Or the need for it.
Yeah. Another sort of question, the sort of tips that you have in your daily routine, do you have any that stand outside of GTD that you've just picked up casually that may be applicable to someone in a professional situation? It can be anything from a morning routine to an evening routine that you've found helpful, maybe that you just discovered recently. Well,
it's all part of GTD. I mean, part of the essence of GTD is what orienting maps do you need to see when?
Sure.
What do you need to look at to orient yourself in space and time? So if you looked at your calendar today, you did that. You stepped back and looked at, oh, wait a minute, here's a larger view of the day or the week or something that's going to let me know what I need to do this afternoon or how to orient myself. So those kind of maps, whether that's a checklist of stuff to do before you go on a trip, whether it's the agendas that you're keeping for the board meeting you're about to go into, all of those things called, what do you need to look at so that some part of you feels comfortable in terms of where you are with what you have available to you and how you need to point your focus. So that's all GTD. And so when you ask that, about the only consistent thing I do is the night before I look at my calendar for the next day or two or three to see what the hard landscape is. What are the things that'll die if I don't do them? Appointments, things or whatever. And that lets me know, I've got 2 shipments coming from, today, from things I've ordered that are supposed to arrive today. So that's on my calendar as well. Just so I know kind of what the hard landscape is.
Yeah.
And that lets me know how long I can sleep, because I love to sleep. I sleep as long as I can. And so I need to look at that first. So I sort of frame when do I need to wake up,
Yeah.
I had a doctor's appointment this morning. I just needed to know, okay, time, I need to make sure I get up in time to be able to go do that. And then the rest of it is all I do is drink some lemon water and then some French press coffee and have a protein drink. And that's about the only thing I do consistently in my life. Everything else is called, what do I feel like doing now?
Yeah. And that's sort of what you've been able to grow into, right?
Well, yeah, that's a lot of what another part of the end game of GTD is, so that you've got an external brain that's keeping track of all that stuff, and your head has given up the job of remembering and reminding and even prioritizing.
Sure.
Your intuition and your intelligence prioritize, but you need to be able to then look at the appropriate dashboard with all the right data. So once you get used to having all that stuff externalized and you have nothing on your mind, then you're using your mind to be making choices out of that dashboard of all the options that you could do. But you can only feel good about what you're not doing when you know what you're not doing. And most people don't have a clue.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I've got a pretty easy clue about everything I'm not doing. I can look at it in 30 seconds and tell you everything I'm not doing right now.
Yeah. And if someone comes across this video and they're totally new to GTD, how can they actually get started with it? Would it be with a book and kicking it off things from there?
Yeah. The book's a good way to start. I mean, it can be a little overwhelming to people because it truly is a complete manual.
Yeah.
I didn't hold back. I just put everything in there. Look, if you need this, because I never had enough time to give everybody all that information, and that's such valuable information that I've gleaned over all these years.
Sure.
So that could be a little overwhelming. So, probably an easy way to start would be to take a public seminar. We now have partners around the world, who are giving public, one-day seminars about this material that adds a lot of flesh and blood to it. So in the UK, we've got great partners there, Next Action Associates, that deliver this training. You get the book with the training. So, you kind of get all that as a package. And, that's a, if you really want to jump in, that would be my recommendation about how to do it. But it's all in the book. If you have the capability and interest to actually read through the book. And part 2 of the book actually walks you through the coaching process that we do when we work one-on-one with people to actually implement this desk side with them.
Sure.
So it actually walks you through with all the ingredients. Put this here, take this here, next do this, next do this. You need a day or two, to implement that. So, I don't know, what did you do when you first read this? Did you just do 1 or 2 things, or did you sit down and take a weekend and kind of?
I think I have to remember back. What I did is it was during the summer, so it was like the summer break, and I was like, I read the book, and then I just sat down with everything and sort of overturned my own organization system, but then started like implementing it in projects, and it actually then became like I fixed any issues that I had ongoing with it. So it was just like iteration after iteration, if you know what I mean.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
And that you can, the cool thing about it is you can do this just one step at a time. Even if you just said, hey, let me just take one corner of my office, it's got a bunch of crap piled up over there, and deal with it.
Yeah.
And because GTD sort of gives you what you need to think about when you pick something up off that pile.
Yeah.
What is it? Is there some action you need to take? Is this reference? Is it trash? And if there is something you need to do, what do you need to do about it?
Sure.
It's not hard. You can get started in 30 seconds. Just write down the top 10 things on your mind and decide the next action on each one, and you'll feel better, being more in control, more focused immediately. So it doesn't take a lot to start to get value out of this and start to practice the behavior. To make it habitual can take you 2 years.
Sure. Yeah. And I 100% agree with that. If people want to follow you, David, where do they follow you? Online, of course.
Well, yeah. I'm on Twitter, GTD Guy. I'm on Instagram, dallen45. You can check with our website that's got stuff we do, podcasts and things like that regularly. Gettingthingsdone.com. So those are places that people can tap in, stay in touch.
Sure. I'll be putting them in the description, everyone. So you can definitely go and follow David and hear about any of his ventures that he's having. But thank you so much, David, for all of those answers. They're really in depth. So I think people will find a lot of value from this, because a lot of people in the community are GTD followers, but some are relatively new to GTD. So this sort of stuff is going to really, I think, kick them off. Definitely recommend the book. So I'll include everything in the description though.
Cool.
But thanks very much for coming on.
Yeah, hope it was helpful.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks for the invitation. Good luck.
Thank you. Make sure to have a great week. Keep productive, guys, and I'll see you guys very soon. Cheers.
Ciao.